Okay, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is a member of, several bands from beginning in the 60s right on up to pretty much today. I think he's still performing a little bit whenever he can. He started out in a band quite well known in this area that precursed the MC5 and the Stooges called the Rationals. And of course, he later was in Sonic Rendezvous. If you haven't guessed already, today my guest is Mr. Scott Morgan. How you doing today, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. Well, anyway, first thing I'd like to start with is a little background about where you're from originally, where you were born and raised, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure it was Ann Arbor, but let's just go back in time a little bit and tell me about that.
Okay, I was born in Ann Arbor in 1949, St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, and grew up at first in Detroit until my parents moved out to Ann Arbor. Lived with my grandmother, and then they got a GI Bill house and moved in there when I was just an infant.
Right.
Detroit, they lived on Seaburn Street on the east side.
East side, okay, yeah. And growing up, I know you play guitar, and you're obviously a lead vocalist, have done a lot of that. What were some of your musical influences? Who were some of the groups that really kind of influenced your style or your musical taste growing up?
Okay. Well, I probably should tell you that I had a pretty good genealogy to help me to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a Chaucer and my mother a Bach, so they were both musical. Cool. And obviously Chaucer was a poet, so that means that I could write lyrics and music. And so what I did at first was I got a guitar and started taking lessons. And then Steve Carell from the Rationals called me and wanted to get together. And so we did, and we started working together. And then he went to military school in Wisconsin. Then while he was gone, I enlisted Terry Trabant to play bass and Bill Figg played drums. And then when he came back, we had the whole band together. And then we got a manager, G. Pollock, and he had a company called A Square Productions. And he started managing us and producing our records for A Square Records. And then eventually we signed with the first record was Respect. That was Cameo Parkway.
Okay.
And that was Alan Klein's label. He had the Beatles and the Stones.
Wow.
And Sam Cooke and a lot of people. And so company didn't last very long. We released a couple singles on that label and then it was over. So we went to Capitol Records, recorded I Need You, and then all of the Michigan bands that had been signed to Cameo Parkway went to Capitol in Los Angeles. And so Bob Seger and Grand Funk and some of the other bands, Cameo, all went to Capitol and ended up finishing their careers there.
Right.
So that was pretty much the end in 1970. This is between 65 and 70. We were managed by G. Pollock, and then we decided to get somebody else to manage us. And we got a manager, Larry Feldman, who signed us to Crew Records. We made our first album. And Tom Wright, who was Pete Townsend's roommate in art school in London. Wow. He's also a famous photographer. He shot the photos for the album. So in 1970, the Rationals broke up, and I started a band with some other friends from Ann Arbor, Terry Trabant from the Rationals, and Jeff Jones and Al Jacquet, and my brother David on drums. We started this band called Guardian Angel, and then we got into management with John Sinclair, and he wanted to change the name to Lightning. So we did that. And then after about 2 years, that band ceased to exist. And I started working with Fred Smith from the MC5. Mm. So we started working together, and we put out one single, City Slang. Up until then, I'd had a lot of, records from the Rationals, including Guitar Army, which was kind of a statement in response to what the MC5 were talking about, guns and revolution and all that, mm-hmm. and the White Panther Party. So, we were, we're going along with all that, but we wanted to put our own twist on it. So we said, well, let's have a Guitar Army. And this was during the Vietnam War.
Right.
So it was topical at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Fred and I started working together, we decided to drive to Los Angeles and see if we could find something to do out there. And we'd been talking to Bennett Glosser, who worked for Dylan's manager. I can't think of his name. And so he kept trying to pitch me, like, do you want to take Al Cooper's spot in Blood, Sweat, and Tears, or do you want to take Janis Joplin's spot in Bill Boogie Band?
Oh, okay.
And then Andy Kuhlenberg from Blood, Sweat, and Tears had a band called Sea Train. And he pitched all these to me, and I just kept saying, I can't join a band that fired the band leader, Al Cooper, so it didn't make any sense. And then Janis Joplin, I mean, how are you going to follow that? So, she had died, and that's why they wanted somebody to take over the band, but it just didn't make any sense to me. So anyway, Fred and I went to Los Angeles, and we didn't really find anything there. We spent about a month there, and I did sit in with Iggy and Ray Manzarek at the Hollywood Palladium, and that was the only live show that we did at the time. And it was an adventure, but we had taken a drive-away car out there from Detroit to Los Angeles, and we took another drive-away car back. So we're back in Michigan, and so we start working and we start playing a lot. And before, with the Rationals, we've been playing at the Grande Ballroom, and we were kind of regulars there, and on Robin Seymour's show Swingin' Time on CKLW. So we're like the house band at Second Chance. We played there like many times. Became friends with John Carver, who was the manager at Second Chance. And so that kept going until the late 70s. And we did some traveling. We had gone, a few places around the Great Lakes area, but mainly playing it around Ann Arbor and Detroit, Michigan.
Didn't Scott Aston play with you guys for a while on drums?
Yeah. When Fred and I got back from California, we were trying to find a drummer and a bass player. And we found a bass player, Ron Cook, who had been playing with Catfish and Mitch Ryder's Detroit. But then he kept selling his equipment for a motorcycle. He had kind of dual interests in motorcycles and music.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very good at music in both, and he was in a bike club called God's Children. So Fred just got a little tired of, having Ron keep saying he wanted to borrow Jerry Rasmussen's equipment so he could play. And Fred said, why don't we just get Gary?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. So that was the band then. Scott had come back from LA and the Stooges were over, and his brother formed his own band. We talked Scott into joining our band, and then we got Gary in the band.
Right.
So that was the band. And then we played until about 1980. And then Fred kind of retired to be like Patti Smith's husband and collaborator, and also to raise a family. And he had Jackson and Jesse, so he finally had children that he wanted, so that was good, but that was pretty much the end of the band.
Where does this all fit in as far as the MC5, though, with Fred? I mean, it was this, when you got the Sonic Rendezvous, was this after the MC5 or kind of during it? Or?
No, after.
After it? So that was pretty much
we had been close with them.
Mm-hmm.
We had, once I moved to Ann Arbor, it was, we saw them all the time. And, we were all good friends, and we had been, even when they were in Detroit, I was. And then once they came to Ann Arbor, the Rationals were friends with them too. It would have been in 1968, right after the riots, and they wanted to get out of Detroit because it was pretty much destroyed. Anyway, so now we're going through the 80s, and pretty much was just solo. And I went to California and recorded, played shows out there, played Cleveland, Toronto, Brooklyn.
Pretty much everywhere then, eh?
Chicago, yeah.
The thing I was going to ask you, getting back a little bit, the Rationals, I know, obviously recorded albums, did some records, but Sonic Rendezvous, other than a couple singles, didn't put out any official albums, did they?
No. What happened was we released City Slang, and we never got a record label. It was just our own self-released single.
Mm-hmm.
So after the band broke up, much later, this label in London, Easy Action Records, whose A&R man was Carl Sandercock, who lives in Cornwall. They put together a deal with Bob Matthew, a photographer who had been in Detroit, worked for Cream, and then he went to Los Angeles and became a celebrity photographer. So he put this deal together with Easy Action Records in England. And so we ended up having a lot of different releases, including Lightning Guardian Angel and some of my solo work, and from School Kids Records and a lot of my demos. They released all kinds of stuff for us.
Did they do any live stuff or bootleg stuff of Sonic Rendezvous?
No, they didn't. Wait a minute. That's not true. They did a whole box set of Sonic's Rendezvous Band. Yeah. This is called Sonic's Rendezvous Band. It's a 6-disc box set of live shows, home recordings, City Slang, of course, and the B-side of City Slang was Electrophonic Tonic, but it was never released until Easy Action put it out.
When all those records sound about the same, and all those heroes seem a little lame, you need a way to tap your energy. Electromagnetic flow in you and me. Let it flow. Let it flow. Let it flow. Let it flow.
those out on singles, were you getting local airplay? Detroit local airplay at all, or was it college?
Not really.
No?
No, at that point, everything was going in a different direction. And when I was with the Rationals, it was all AM radio, and
Right.
CKLW you could hear through the Southern Great Lakes. And at night, because of the skip waves, 50,000 watts would go like worldwide because it would bounce the signal off the atmosphere. So everything was regional programming, but then it went to FM and everything changed because 50,000 watts of AM power was different than 50,000 watts of FM power,
Sure.
which only went for a 50-mile radius, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all programmed nationally so that this same playlist that you hear in Detroit would be heard in New York and Los Angeles.
Right.
So that all changed the face of the music business. So I did a song called 16 with a Bullet.
Man, 40 miles from Detroit, up in Michigan. 16 with a bullet, they were glory bound. 16 with a bullet, now they're going down. Johnny came from up north, he was city born. Didn't have much money, it wasn't on the door. Folks on the grocery, Detroit, Michigan. Work behind the counter, cashing Bibles in. 16 with a bullet, little glory bound. 16 with a bullet, now they're going down. One night when Billy walked in, he was packing heat. Got a taste for drugs, and he can't be beat. Johnny opened up the chill, just like my man said. Came up with a pistol, and they both lay dead. 16 with a bullet, they were glory bound. 16 with a bullet, now they're going down. It just don't matter who was wrong or right. Sure don't matter who was black or white, but 16 with a bullet in a cold hard ground. Not the way they planned it, but now the glory bound.
That was kind of because of the teen violence at the time, and people were interested in that record. But it was just all doing solo stuff, basically.
Was that the Scott Morgan band that you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott Morgan Band, which we named Scots Pirates, as in Scottish people, Scotland,
Right.
because my great-grandfather was from Glasgow.
Speaking of that lasted for a while. Then you hooked up again with yet another member from the MC5, Wayne Kramer, in Dodge, Maine. How did that start, or how did that come about?
Wayne wanted to do that. He had a deal with a record label in Los Angeles. We went with that. I went to Los Angeles, and I was there already because I was playing at Mammoth Lakes in Northern California. It's Alive Records. The Dodge Main record was on Alive, Burbank, California. Patrick Bose's label.
Was any of this vinyl, or was it all CD by this time?
That's vinyl and CD.
Oh, okay.
So I just happened to be in California, and they asked me to come into the studio and record some tracks for the album with Dennis Tech from Radio Birdman, who I ended up working with later on. So by the end of the millennium, by 1999, 1979, I found out that this band, the Helicopters, was coming from Stockholm to New York to debut in the United States. I wanted to meet them, so I went to the studio, met them, and they said, well, why don't you record with us? So the first thing we did was a song called Downright Blue. and it was on Sub Pop Records. And then after that, they came back and did like a more extended American tour. And at that point, they asked me to go to Amsterdam and make an album with Nick Royale from the Helicopters, Tony Leeuwenberg, Tony Slug, Theo Brouwer. And we recorded that in Amsterdam, which is a really nice town.
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's very far ahead of most cities. I would say probably more like New York in that sense. Not as big, but the same idea where you would have all the different neighborhoods would all be multinational label neighborhoods. So anyways, any place you went in Amsterdam you'd always feel comfortable because there would be Indian people and Muslim people and Dutch people and all these different nationalities in the same city. And so we went on tour. We toured Western Europe, and then Nick left the band and went back to the Helicopters because he was already playing in 2 bands when we were touring, which was just too much for him.
Sure.
So then they asked me to come to England or to Stockholm and record with them in Stockholm. The band that we had started in Amsterdam was the Hydromatics. We did 3 albums with that band. Then I went to Stockholm next and started recording there with The Solution.
Which was called something else before that, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so.
I thought there was a different name turned into The Solution that was changed to that.
No.
No?
The
Okay.
Hydromatics would be the other band.
Okay. All right.
So it was just Nick and I who formed The Solution, and then we were based out of Stockholm then, and we toured basically Scandinavia. We played at like Roskilde, which is a really big festival in Denmark, or it's not Denmark, it's Copenhagen.
Copenhagen, okay.
Roskilde is a huge festival, like 80,000 people. They asked me to play on the main stage for the encore, and it was, where Santana had played in the afternoon, and we had been playing on a smaller stage that had like maybe 8 or 10,000 people on it. It was good, but the main stage was even bigger.
But the ground that you walk on never touch your feet. You've been told to hold your head up high, and that's all good, girl, but now it's reached the sky. It can't be easy to see from up there. Get yourself down there, girl, where the view is clear. If you want love, you got to come down. And if you need it, get your feet back on the ground. If you wanna get up there, you got to be around. Down on the ground, here with me. Well, come on, girl, and I'll set you free. You learn the perfect TV smile to make it come from your heart. It's gonna take you a while. You got yourself shrouded in mystique, but the mystery's gone, girl, when you start to speak. It can't be easy to see from up there. Get yourself down to earth, girl, where the view is clear. If you want love, you got to come down. And if you need it, get your feet back on the ground. If you want to get up, you got to be around. Down on the ground, here with me. Well, come on, girl, and I'll set you free, yeah.
It was just this big platform, all made out of like plywood, but it was huge.
Right.
And they had these big sports screens on either side of the stage because you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see the band look like tiny little figures. So you had to watch it on the sports screen.
Right. Now, but other than the bands, the band that you were in at the time, The Solution, and the other ones, were you playing any of like the Rational songs or anything from Sonic Rendezvous in that setup, or were you just doing pretty much what that band had at that time?
We were trying to start fresh.
Okay.
And so we try not to go back too much.
Now, what happened to that band as far as that? That was in
we played until the early 2000s, probably like 2010 or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I was there quite a bit. Dennis Tech and I did a tour of southern France and Italy, which was nice.
How did you guys go over there? In other words, did they know you at all, or was it just the music scene was so fresh and so new that they were, and it being Europe, they were just open to all the different styles of music that were coming over there or playing?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, really. There were some places where they were smaller and people didn't really know us. Sometimes in a small room, if it's packed with people, it could be really exciting because they're all packed up against the stage. Like when we played on the Seine on a barge, like a party barge on the Seine, all of a sudden we turned around and these people were just plastered against the stage. Like, what is this? We've never heard. It's kind of like when Aretha Franklin went to Amsterdam, the concert bow, and people were they'd never heard anything like that before. Right. Because British soul music is it's all American.
We were famous for that, for soul music,
and
the blues and country, sure.
Rockabilly, like Carl Perkins and people like that.
Yeah, because I remember that movie they made called The Commitments. That was all about that whole turnabout where they were playing all the United States R&B style stuff. Now, did you, when you were over there and you were doing these shows and doing these tours, mini tours or whatever they would be, did you open up for any major acts, major European acts or United States acts over there doing this, or were you pretty much doing stuff on your own?
We were the act.
Okay. Because you mentioned Santana at that festival, so I didn't know if there were any shows that you opened up for, bands.
They were on a different stage. They were on the main stage. That was the 80,000 capacity, like kind of a Pine Knob kind of a place. It's much larger.
So would that have been probably one of the few big festivals that you played at? Is that why?
Yeah, we did one in Spain that was really big. In all these shows, like I said, when you sometimes you play a small room and then there's just people would be plastered up against the stage. Yeah. They couldn't believe it. They weren't experiencing this kind of music from European bands. And this, all of a sudden, they're hearing something like that's partly European and partly American, and I'm the American ingredient. Although we had some other people from the United States that we worked with too, but mainly it was me and Nick.
Did any of the early bands like the Rationals or Sonic Rendezvous or any of that, or the Scott Morgan band itself, ever get to play over in Europe, or was this just by the time you got to this point?
No, I had gone to Europe with my parents, and we took a 3-week rail pass tour of England, and we weren't playing. It was just my sister and me and my parents, but we got to see a lot of the British Isles, and we didn't go to Ireland because my dad just didn't want to go there because of the troubles, I think, at the time. But we stopped at the airport, Shannon Airport, to refuel or something for the Atlantic flight back to Detroit. But I didn't go back to play until I met the Helicopters.
So that was pretty much the part of your performing career that you'd been playing over in Europe. Now, how long did you say you were over there as far as, Spain, France, Denmark?
About 10 years.
10 years. Wow. That is a long time. Did you miss the States at all, or were you just...
Well, I didn't stay there. I just would go over there to work and then come home. Or? No, I didn't move there. I would stay in Amsterdam or in Stockholm, and then we would go on tour, or we would record and then go home and then go back tour to promote the new album, and just kept doing that over and over again. It stretched out over like 10 years.
That's a lot of traveling in 10 years, so going back and playing that. Now, as far as the recording, was it all done over there then, or was was any of it done here when you would come back before going back?
When I came back, I would be playing with American bands. And so I did that.
And what American bands would you be playing with then when you came back?
I think we're just going under my name, basically.
Oh, okay. Because jumping a little forward, I know that somewhere in like 2010, 2011, you formed a group called The Irrational. Now, was that kind of a play on words as far as The Rationals? Or
yeah,
what was
it wasn't
that
really a band. It was just, I don't know why we even called it that. It was kind of a joke, actually.
So that was kind of an excuse to kind of get out and play at the time while you were still doing some other things?
I don't think that was really even a band. It was like project that we tried and that didn't go anywhere. So there was a lot of that going on, stopping and starting and trying something different.
I get you. Now, how much of your material, as far as you know, from as far back as the Rationals to today, is still available, to buy? Is there a lot of it still out there? I mean, can you get it? Can you get the stuff like that Sonic Rendezvous box set you were mentioning? Is that out there? Because I hadn't seen that.
It's out of print.
About a land, cities like communication, no downtown streets,
What are you up to now? I know you're a little older. I don't want to, say you're old because you're only as young as you feel. Are you still performing much anymore, or are you just pretty much retired from it and just do special events?
Well, we hired an entertainment attorney. This world-class guy here in Detroit. We're trying to get him to consolidate all the Rational stuff, and then we want to move on and do something new, which it's a lot of work because you're beating against, like, if you look at the Hall of Fame, everybody in there is in there for either they're on a major record label or it's all about record sales and numbers. How many millions of dollars have you made, how many multi-platinum records have you made. It has nothing to do with the music itself, and that's why it took so long to get the MC5 inducted into the Hall of Fame, that they were all dead. Yeah, that's too bad.
Now, what did you think of back in the day? We'll go back a little bit. You coming back to the States, playing in New York City at that time. Did you play at some of the major, like, I guess they weren't underground, but like CBGBs? Did you get to play there? Did you play clubs like that when you were in New York?
Yeah, I played CBGB.
Now, would that have been with, which groups would that have been with? Is that the Scott Morgan Band or Sonic Rendezvous?
Band would that be? Powertrain.
Oh, okay. Because that was another band I'd forgotten. That's right. You had mentioned that.
We played Brooklyn with Dennis Tech, and so that was like sold out, like 1,000 people. And we played other clubs like in New Jersey,
sure,
Boston. Not too much on the East Coast, really.
Now, what did you think of, you being from Detroit and, in Ann Arbor area? What did you think as far as, like, did you enjoy playing here more? I mean, you got a bigger fan base maybe here than in New York, but as far as the scene, was it better to play here in Ann Arbor, Second Chance, some of those places, and, as opposed to New York, which may have been a little bit of bigger market city? Which did you prefer?
Neither. Just it's good to play anywhere, really. I like playing locally, but then I'd like traveling to other places too to play. So that's kind of a strategy that, if you just play in Detroit, you'll be in the Detroit Music Awards.
Right.
And you won't go any place outside of Detroit, really.
No, I didn't mean so much just playing in Detroit. I just didn't know if you had a favorite clubs that you preferred to play at. I mean, obviously, you got to get out of Michigan.
Here in Detroit, the main place was the Grandy Ballroom.
Right.
And in Ann Arbor, the main place was Second Chance.
Yeah.
So those would be the two local clubs that, there was lots of other clubs.
Sure.
But it boiled down to those two in this area.
Well, Scott, it's been really great talking to you. I won't take up any more of your time. We've discussed enough.
It's fine.
I hope to hear more from you as far as that, if you get that Rationals deal together and get out, hopefully it'll come out one form or another.
There's no one else to stand in your
and thank
Okay.
you so much for hanging out and talking to me today. I learned quite a bit, and I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy this because everybody in this town knows who you are. Everybody in town knows, well, maybe not everybody as far as the younger generation, but that's why I'm doing this show, to try and help educate some of the younger generation of some of this
Good.
great music that came out of this city, like I say, from the 60s right on up to today.
It started long before me.
Yeah, it sure did. But you were a big part of it. Like I said, you and the MC5
Yeah,
and
for
the
the
Stooges. And
pre-World War II music scene, I was growing up in that. And so my first singles would be like Elvis Presley
oh, of
records.
course, Jerry Lee Lewis, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I love
All
all
that
that.
stuff.
Well, thank you so much again, sir, and you take care. And hopefully, we'll hear some of the stuff that you're hoping to get together and down the line.
Okay, if you have any more questions, you can just email me and be glad to answer anything you want.
Okay, that sounds great. I probably will.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you, and you have a good evening.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Well, that was Scott Morgan, pretty much a legend in Michigan as far as the underground garage music scene starting out in the 60s. His band, The Rationals, predated the MC5 and the Stooges, the Amboy Dukes, and a lot of that. And he played with members from those groups, obviously with Sonic Rendezvous and beyond. And he's had quite a long, extensive career playing here, New York, LA, Europe itself, Denmark. And to me, that's fascinating. And I wish him the best of luck in the future as far as getting that Rational stuff out and anything else that he can from the early days right out up to now out, whether it be streaming or out on vinyl or whatever, it doesn't matter. It needs to be out there. It needs to be heard. So anyway, with that being said, I'd like to remind you again, if you're liking these interviews, and I've got a lot more coming down the line, artists that are older and newer, whatever, if you could hit the like button, maybe hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, it helps me out quite a bit. Just shows me there's interest in these interviews, and it kind of keeps me going. Anyway, with that being said, keep rocking.